everyone. I warmly welcome you all to the second day of the Robotics webinar series organized by the IEEE Robotic and Automation Society, University of Peradeniya. The main intention of this webinar series is to provide you with the fundamental knowledge on robotic simulation. In the first webinar, we mainly focused on the fundamentals of Webot simulation software. So today, as the second session, we are going to talk about the robotic control and path planning. Under that, we will be focusing on the future trends of robotics, mathematical modeling, obstacle avoidance, and finally, path planning algorithms. So with that, let me introduce you to the keynote speaker of the today's session, Dr. Tharindu Weerakorn, a senior lecturer in the Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, University of Peradeniya. He has earned his Master of Science and PhD both in Robotics and Control from the Kyushu Institution of Technology in Japan. He has also worked as a researcher at the same institution. Before that, he has served for several state and private academic institutions as a consultant. Not only that, he has been a member of the Underwater Research Group for the Center of Socio-Robotic Synthesis at KIT in collaboration with the University of Tokyo. And also, he has published several journals and conference papers in which some of them have been awarded with the Best Paper Award. His main interests are concentrated in robotics and control under the fields of robotics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So before handing now the session to our speaker, I would like to make a little announcement for all the participants. We will be displaying a link in the chat box through which you can direct your questions to us so that we'll make sure to answer them at the Q&A session in the end. So without further delay, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Tharindu. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Let me share my screen first. Okay, hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for the introduction, and I'm Tharindu Weerakorn. I'm going to explain myself, but the today's topic only, robot control and path planning, the topic that we have selected for the today's webinar. So today we will try to look at these subtopics. Right? First, I will explain what is robotic and what is robot. Right? The difference between those two keywords. Then the motivation behind the people who are willing to do robotics. Then components of robotic system. Then I will categorize the robots and some key features that we are expecting to have with those robots. Then mathematical modeling and how that mathematical modeling is important in robotics. Then finally, the perception, that is the brain of the robotics and how we develop that brain. And one of the main topic that we are talking under that perception is path planning. Right? Sometimes we use different words, navigation, motion planning, trajectory planning, and all those are related, but they are different things. We will discuss those things today. So first of all, I'd like to show you this chart, which is extracted from the Wikipedia, right? So, hopefully, you may have seen this before. This is how the mechatronics is defined in Wikipedia. Right? Robotics is one of the best example for mechatronics. Right? It includes all these field of specialization. If I start from the control systems, then control electronics, electronic systems, mechatronic, mechanics, mechanical systems. Not only that, we completely work on mechanical systems, CAD design, then computer, right? Means the computer science will play a big role in this mechatronic system, right? And digital control system, right? And it's a cluster of these field of specialization, right? So that is mechatronic, and the best example the people in this field says is robotics. Right? So then the things that we should study if you are going to study robotics is you have to study all those things, right? It's a big challenge, but interesting, and there are so many advantages. We will discuss those things in the coming few slides, right? So then the motivation or why the robotics is important, why we should study robotics, or why you have selected to study robotics. Okay, so I have selected these couple of reasons, right, that you may or may not think about those things before, but from today, you can think in a different way why this robotics or robot is important for our society, right? Okay. The first one I have selected is sustainable food future by 2050. So how it is related to this robotics, right? There is a big linkage or connection of this robotics to this first reason, right? Then the second one is, you can understand that very well, industrial revolution. Now we are in the era of industry 4.0, as well as towards the industry 5.0, right? Or somewhere in the middle of industry 4.0 and 5.0, right? We will discuss the key role of the robotics in that industry 4.0 as well as 5.0. In addition to that, I have given two other keywords, right? IoT, Internet of Things, right? I think you all have heard about that one, Internet of Things. And double IoT is Industrial Internet of Things, right? So this is a key hot topic nowadays under Industry 4.0 towards Industry 5.0, right? So there is a big role of robotics to play in that revolution, right? So then the future trend, right? These are actually developed with these first two reasons, right? The trend has developed because of these two, right? So then people are moving towards, people means that developed countries and roboticians, scientists, researchers, they are moving towards to face the challenges coming with these industrial 4.0 and 5.0. Then what we have to do is we have to go with them. For that we have to study robotics, not only robotics. It covers actually many fields, robotics along with AI and machine learning, right? Even though I put these two in under two different words, but they are somehow interrelated, right? So we can put machine learning under AI, right? Don't worry about that, right? If you search what is a big set, what is a big field, then AI will come first, right? So under that, we can put machine learning. Okay, so then with those two reasons, we will try to look at those things in detail. So I have put some facts actually collected from the web, right? I have given the website where I have collected those information. So this study done in probably 2020, right? If I'm correct, but what they have estimated is the world population by 2050, right? So hope that you can see this world population will be increased by 56%, right? Not the world population. World population will be 10 billion, and for that increase of the world population, we have to produce the food extra, right? 26% more than the food production now, right? Okay, so then so with that motivation, what we have to analyze is whether we can produce that amount of food, right? So now if I just I think you can see my writing, right?
Yes, sir, we can see.
9.1 billion, right? By 2020 or 2019, the world population is 9.1 billion. By 2050, it will be 10 billion, right? It will be 10 billion. So as a percentage, it's about 10%, but the food need, right, is more than that, right? They are not directly proportional, but there is some exponential increase of the food need for the rest of the population increase by 2050. Therefore, we have to analyze whether we can produce that amount of food by 2050, right? So sometimes you will think that we are not talking about robotics, but what I am targeting is to motivate you to do study on robotics and how you are focusing on your study with a solid reason, right? Aligned to the world trend, and then so you can study your field of specialization related to robotics with a good reason. Then you can reach your goal, right? Without any problem, right? So if this is actually the estimation done in 2017, couple of years ago, but we can say that this is still valid, right? This is done in 2017, and this is the Earth surface of total area, right? And 29% is the land, right? And 71 is the ocean. Then from this 29% of the total surface area, right? This is the useful land or the land surface that we can use for different purpose, right? So then from that again 50%, right? So you can now calculate. So 29 or 100, or I will use yes, 0.29 and then 0.71. Then out of that, 50% only can be used for agriculture, right? 0.5. So then out of that, what we can allocate it is 32% for crops, right? Zero point 23, 23%, right? Okay, then out of that, 82%, right, is the calorie supply, right? So from these, actually, this is where we can produce the vegetables, right? Veggie, and these, let's say, simply meats, right? And this is the calorie we extracted from these crops, right, or vegetables, right? Okay, so up to this, this is the amount actually we can use for our agriculture, right? Farming, right? If you just forget about this livestock, right? Okay, so then you can calculate the effective area, right, as a percentage from the total Earth surface, right? So now you can see that so very small amount is, I mean, land surface area is available for our agricultural purpose. And here the important fact is that even though we have allocated 77% for livestock, right, the calorie supply is 18%. Right? There's a big difference, right? If we can move this to this side, right, if we can increase, let's say 23% to 50, and we can reduce this the land allocation for livestock to 50, right, from 77%, right? So we will be able to produce more calories for the next generations, right, or next population, and we can also supply more protein for them, right? By 2050, what we can do is we can balance this calorie need and protein need for the global population. But it is a little bit impossible to do because for livestock we need a huge land area, right? So then what we have to do is we have to optimize this small area compared to this, right? Right? It's about 11 million square kilometer, but that is small compared to the land allocated for the livestock. So what we can do is we have to go for different agricultural techniques, right? Engage with new technology. There, the robotics or robots play a big role. We will discuss those things in a few minutes time, right? Okay, so then where the technology is heading, right, to feed the world. As I explained you before, we have to optimize that land available without increasing or capturing the land allocated for the livestock. What we can do is we can use the technology to improve the productivity, efficiency, and all those things, right? So with that technological engagement with the traditional agriculture, we define the new agriculture as digital agriculture or smart agriculture. Sometimes you can heard about smart farming or digital farming, right? Those are the keywords you can use to search on the web if you are interested to learn more about those things. Here, actually, what we have is AI, right? So under that AI applications, we use machine learning and deep learning techniques, right? Okay, so now here you can see an automated, right, plant, right? Oh, sorry, automated farm, right? They are the robots are the farmers, right, or the workers. Right? Then you can see no human beings are working there, right? And this will run 24/7, so 24/7 time, right? And we can increase the productivity. So, and we are using the novel technology to inspect and or sometimes we can say for fertilizing and all those things, right, can be done through these technologies, right? Therefore, what we can do is, if we consider the number of hours that the workers are working in those farms, let's say 8 hours per day, right? But we can increase that by 3 times. Definitely, with the technological engagement, we can improve the productivity by 3 times or more, right? But the capital investment is a bit high, but payback period is very small. Right? You can refer those things on the web. So many articles are available, and nowadays actually Japan, China, Denmark like countries are using that technology. Right? As you can see here, this is one of the famous technology used in China, especially nowadays. Right? They have invested a lot of money for this smart agriculture. Right? Okay, and okay, so with that, we will move to the next one. Next reason, the Industrial Revolution. Right. So now we are here, right, in between. I can say in between 4.0 and 5.0. Right? Even though we are talking about Industry 4.0, but we are actually in between those two phases, right? Or in the transition period. Okay, so you can see this indicates there's a big role for robots to play, right? Okay, not only that, here, if you compare that with the Industry 3.0, here these are actually automated one. These are actually autonomous, and they are connected to the internet. And this is actually the industry, right? And internet is there. That's why IIoT becomes a hot topic nowadays, right? Industries are connected through the internet, right? Industry is one of the element in that network. Okay, therefore, it's very important to study about robotics and related fields, right? AI and machine learning, computer science, and all those things. Okay, the next one is IIoT, right? That's what I explained in the previous slide, right? This is actually the very fundamental or the basic structure of structure can be used to explain IIoT. Right? Here you can see the robotics are there, industries are there, manufacturing industries, then smart grid, right? Completely different one, right? Also, they are producing some sort of thing, right? Products, right? Smart power utility, smart communication, smart cities are connected to this IIoT application, right? Smart cars, right? All are connected to this grid, right? Then all will be communicated each other and towards for a better life, producing effective and precise service, right? So that's the objective of introducing IIoT as the next step of IoT. So we have discussed IoT for a couple of decades, but Now we are talking about IIoT, and you may find some different words: Internet of Everything, IoE, like keywords are now being there in the web. They are pointing different things, right? Then, if you think about the robotics, right? The role of robotics in that IIoT, or let's say simply future, right? Here, I have just put a few pictures only to get some sort of idea about the robotics, right? Here, in the manufacturing industry nowadays, all the manufacturing industries are converting towards the fully autonomous industry, right? So in Sri Lanka also, there are some manufacturing industries, they are converting now to the autonomous industry. Okay, so then here, the service robot, it's one of the interesting one. You can find those kind of robots in other countries like Singapore, Japan, China, then European countries and Australia, like developed countries. Those robots can be found in shopping malls, then hospitals, and some elderly homes, right? And in the medicine, there is a big revolution happened a couple of years ago, right? Some roboticians have developed this kind of surgical robot, right? So it will be commercialized and it will be spread around the world in a couple of years, right? Okay, then if you think about in this way, right? Assistive robots, right? This is one of the hot topic, right? In the field of robotics, right? As well as this one, smart agriculture. Okay, those are the, I mean, in this way, those are the hot topics nowadays people are talking in the field of robotics, right? Because if we go to this medical robot, it's a little bit expensive and lack of facilities are available at the moment, but in future, we are expecting to have some facilities in this field as well, right? But we can easily develop something in these three areas, right? Service robot, agriculture robot, and assistive robots. Okay. So the other reasons.
Yeah.
So those are the reasons that you may already had or have before listening to the reasons I explained. There may be a good job market for the robotics in future, and it's a field that integrate different fields of specialization like computer science, mechanics, electrical, electronic, and so on. Then you can come up with extremely creative and interesting ideas, right? Then people will praise you, and you can easily hit in the field of robotics if you come up with creative and interesting ideas. Okay, so then you can serve to the society as well as to the economy and also to the environment, right? With a big impact, you can generate that. Then the people can feel, and it will be some sort of a marketable topic nowadays. Therefore, you can select, or you have decided to study robotics, right? I don't know actually, but you can think the reasons why you wanted to study robotics. Right? And there are plenty of opportunities open to come up with new things, innovations, right? And there are so many problems, social, economical, environmental, and many problems still the people are struggling with to solve. Then you can give a solution using your using the existing technology, as well as you can introduce that as some sort of a robotic application that you have designed and developed to solve that social or economical or environmental so, problem, right? And at the end, it's a funny one. You can enjoy by making a robot, right? Once you program a robot, if it is moving, then you can enjoy it, right? So for funny, you can do robotics, right? So think about those things, why you selected or why you want to study robotics, right? Okay, then I will give some facts about world robot density. This survey is done in 2019, and leading one according to this survey done by this company, let's say it's a company or organization, right? Yes, South Korea is the leading country, and next to Japan, but in some documents or articles, Singapore is leading the South Korea. Let's say about 915 robots are using as robot workers per 10,000 employees, right? Right. Okay. So, but that information is not in this article, but I should say the first is the Singapore, right? Okay. So then second place is the Japan, then Germany, Sweden, US, Italy, and so on, right? China is there, right? Okay. Then growth of robot or the forecast, right? So in the previous slide, we discussed the situation at the moment, but what will happen in 2050, right? This study is done in 2017, little bit old data, but still we can think that this demand or the growth is increasing, not decreasing, right? If they do the same survey again, right, probably they will come up with higher values, right, or higher numbers. So the highest demand goes to the consumer type products. For an example, drones, right? Drone delivery, drone for smart agriculturing, and drone for surveying. And there are so many applications that we can use drone even nowadays, but we'll see what will happen by this time, right? 2050, whether we will be able to see that kind of robot drone applications in the world, right? Then this is limited because of the number of industries will not increase. Manufacturing industry that is limited because they are used in those places only, right? And supermarkets, hospitals, they use actually this service robot or commercial, sales representatives or salesman robot. Then here the robot manipulators are used, right? And the military applications, in the military applications also we can see some robots are used, especially US is funding more dollars for this research, right? Billions of dollars. Okay. Also, we can find so many MSc and PhD opportunities under those applications, right? So we'll see what will happen to this, because the capital investment for this kind of research and development is less compared to the others. That might be a reason, but I'm not sure exactly for the demand increases on this consumer type robotics. Then I guess you are interested in robotics because of these reasons, right? You want to design a robot like wheeled mobile robot or semi-autonomous drone or drone colony, right? Using swarm techniques, right? Or sometimes we call multi-agent robots. And sometimes you want to develop some self-driving car or some applications for the self-driving car, right? Using AI techniques, right? And you want to do something on industrial robots, right? Because nowadays industries in Sri Lanka, as well as most of the industries in the developing countries, are converting or transferring to the autonomous industries. But the trend is a little low, but there are so many problems in that field as well. You can come up with some solutions, and that may be the reason you are here to select or do robotics study to come up with some algorithms or development in industrial robots. Right? Some of you may be interested in biomedical robots, right? Surgical robot or some humanoid robot, right? There are so many. There may be so many reasons, right? But the thing is that you have to know something about control engineering, right? Okay, so within those systems, control is there. Control is the main part, right? If this is the robot, input will be given and you are expecting some output from the robot, right? So these are three elements of the control system, right? Any system can be divided into these three, right? Any complex system, you can identify the input or inputs, then the process and output or outputs, right? So we will talk how to come up with this kind of model, right? And how to design that. That is actually called mathematical modeling. That is one of the topics that I want to discuss today. So then if I expand that three elements into these blocks, right? Controller, actuator, and the processing, right? There is a process, do something from that processing, we have to actuate or we have to give the signal to move that part of the robot. If it is a robot, right, there should be something called actuator. For example, it can be a motor, right? The simplest example comes to our mind is motor, right? Motor will actuate something, right? Rotate something, right? Rotate robot arm or rotate a wheel, right? To do that action, this controller is essential to be there to send the control signal. Right? Rotate clockwise direction or rotate counterclockwise direction. And rotate this much of angle. That command will be fed by this controller, and controller will get the input from the operator, or this is our desired output actually. We want to move that robot from here to there. Therefore, we will give that command, then the system will work accordingly to that given command. But this will not do the job properly. That's why we introduce closed loop feedback system, right? I'm not going to explain more about those things because of the time restriction, right? I'll try my best to finish this talk within 1.5 hour time. Okay, so then, so if you talk about the closed loop system, in order to get what is called precise motion and precise output at the end, we have to have this kind of sensory system, right? And we measure the actual operation or the output of the system, and then we compare that with the desired output. And this controller, actuator, and process part or the plant together will act to move or reach to that goal. Okay. So you have to learn more about control engineering if you are going to do some design in robotics, right? Control is very much essential in robotics, right? Okay, I will skip this one. These are the things I have explained before, and mathematical modeling, right? Okay, so mathematical modeling is the representation of that process by set of equations. Because we are now working on these set of equations, because our objective is to design and analyze a system that can be used to control our robot. Robot is there, we have to design a controller, and that controller will execute the commands that we send to that controller in order to do something using the robot. Therefore, we have to have some set of mathematical equations, right? Those equations will represent the process or the, let's say, the robot. Right? Then mathematical modeling is very important, and we will discuss those things in a couple of times. Okay. Then, yeah, this just about single variable control. We have only one input, one output, right? Then we can use this feedback system to have the exact or expected output at the end. But if we consider if there are multiple inputs, right, and there may be multiple outputs, right? Not only one output, there may be multiple outputs. Right? We will come up with a little bit of complex system design, right? So that such systems are called multivariable systems, and controllers that we are targeting to design is called as multivariable control. Right? Those are actually just facts. If you are interested on designing or developing a robot, you have to go through those things little bit at least, right? So, okay, this is an example how that feedback control system is working. For example, if you consider a car, right? And this is the blue color one is the desired path of the car or the desired direction of the travel, and the blue color one is the actual direction of the travel. And this blue, right? And this is actually a self-driving car, and this closed loop system will try to track the desired direction as much as possible, right? And this driver is actually can be replaced by that controller we discussed in the previous slides. Okay. Then if you think about the types of robots, we can see there are so many types of robot. Fixing, that is actually the robot manipulator, then wheeled mobile robot, tracked type, leg type, and undulating robots, right? And then depending upon the autonomy, we can categorize those mobile robots under two, right? Guided and non-guided robots, right? Non-guided robots are actually can be again categorized into these three. Right? They are moving on a free space. Guided robots are actually the line following light robots, right? They can't move here and there, but they have to follow the given path, right? Okay, so then autonomous mobile robot. If we go to the previous one, what we are talking is actually the autonomous wheel mobile robot and the robot manipulator under this talk. And here there are some capabilities for having a fully autonomous mobile robot, right? Okay, so that robot can be put under fully autonomous robot if that robot is having this capability of gaining information about the environment. That is the first capability that robot should have. And the second one is work for extended period without human assistance, right? So that robot should be capable of thinking and decide what it should do, right? Without any assistance of the operator. Then move itself in its operating environment, right? Means that we have to design that robot's brain in such a way that to move from one location to another with these capabilities, right? Avoiding obstacles and without making any harm to the people in the environment, right? Okay. So then, in order to achieve those capabilities, what we have to have with the robot is robot sensing. In that robot should perform path of trajectory planning and then control. Okay, so then these are the three fundamental questions if we are targeting about these three things, right? Where am I, right? So I means the robot, right? Then robot should know where it is, right? Then we can solve that problem, or we can give the answer to that by localization, right? So robot localization means that we have to develop an algorithm such a way that the robot is capable of finding where it is, right? Where am I going? Then mapping, right? Is a solution for that, right? And on that map, robot should be knowledge where it should go. Then how do I go there? That can be done through path planning and obstacle avoidance algorithms. Right? Those are the things, key things that we should study if we are going for advanced robotics, means that autonomous robot design, right? Okay. Then what are the challenges in order to achieve those capabilities, or in order to give the solution for these three questions? If we can develop a robot that can do self-answering for these three questions, then we can say that robot is an autonomous robot, right? Otherwise, it will be a semi-autonomous or automated robot. Right? Okay, so in order to find the solutions to these technical things, localization, mapping, path planning, and obstacle avoidance, these are the challenges: object and landmark detection, obstacle avoidance, and multi-modal sensor fusion. Today we will try to discuss obstacle avoidance and path planning algorithms, and later you will get a chance to listen to sensor fusion and techniques, and also how to detect the landmarks and objects, right, in the next couple of webinars. Okay. So depending upon the prior knowledge and information that the robot can gather through its sensors, we can, as well as the capabilities, as we discussed before, 3 capabilities, whether the robot can achieve those capabilities or not, we can talk about the autonomy of the robot. Then we can put whatever the robot we have under these 3 autonomy classes. Right? Non-autonomous, it means that it is fully operated by the operator given instructions, right? Okay, so whatever the instruction given or the program, that robot will operate. So most of the robots that we can see in manufacturing industries are non-autonomous, right? Or the other word that we can use is automated. We give instruction, then those robots will follow the instructions only. They don't have any thinking capability, right? Okay, then the second one is semi-autonomous. Partially, they will collect the information and do something itself, right? Okay, so then the fully autonomous one, we do not give any instruction, and the robot itself should decide what to do, right? We give the goal only. Let's say, bring me a cup of tea. Then robot should decide where he should go and how to make a cup of tea and how to bring it back and how to serve. Those things should be decided by himself in the current situation, right? So in that case, actually, that robot cannot follow whatever the given instructions as it is. Then what we have to do is, before employing that kind of fully autonomous robot, we have to learn the robot, or we have to teach the robot first, or learn, or sometimes we call as train. We train the robot. Right? After training, then robot itself will generate an algorithm like our brain works, right? And then we don't know what's that algorithm inside that robot is, but it will perform well in later. And this algorithm will be capable of adapting for new constraints or new environmental changes. Right? Even though it is getting lack of information, then this algorithm developed by this process, learning and training process, then the robot is capable of performing that task well. Right? Okay. Then there are some fundamental laws. Robot may not injure a human being. It's the first one. And but human being can come and harm to the robot. Then the second law is must obey the orders given by the human being, right? So if it is not violating the first one, then robot must protect its own existence, so the instrument or the devices, right? As long as such a protection does not conflict to these two laws, right? Okay, those are the things. And if you look at the components of the robot control system, as we discussed before, we have a sensory system, controller, and actuator. So this will be probably discussed in the next seminar, and later you will see how we can extract the information and head sensor fusion can be done. And today my objective is to give how to come up with set of equations for this actuating part, right? Okay, first we'll select the mobile robot or the wheel mobile robot. Let's consider this 2D environment XY, and this is actually the called as global frame or initial frame. I will use this symbol G, sigma I, and with respect to this frame we measure everything, and this is the position of this robot, which is in between these two wheels, that is the center of the robot, and this coordinate is X, this is Y, let's say YP and XP, right? This is the current or instantaneous position of this robot, and this frame, this XR YR frame is on this robot, that is called robot's frame, sigma. The pose means position plus orientation, right? Position is XY, orientation is with respect to this X direction of the global frame or the initial frame. This is the angle to the x-axis of the robot's frame. This is the x-axis of the initial frame or the global frame. This is the angle. This is in the positive direction of the angle. Then that is called orientation. Putting these information in this way as a vector, that is called the pose vector of the robot. Right? That is actually the instantaneous information, instantaneous pose of the robot. Okay, so now another thing is that we can't actually get these set of informations directly, but what we have to do is we have to calculate continuously within set of mathematical equations. Okay, then rotation matrix, that is actually how much this robot axis is rotated in the positive direction or negative direction, and its inverse matrix. I'm not going to explain all those things, but what we are interested is the local, the mapping of this force vector to the velocity vector in the same frame with the aid of this position vector, this rotation matrix R, right? So this is how we can convert that robot's frame information, right, to the global frame, right? Okay, so this is actually the mathematical model of that robot. In that mathematical model, we can talk about kinematic. Kinematic actually the velocity vector of this robot, and it has a relationship to the geometry we use, geometry of the robot we use, R, especially the radius of the wheel, L is the distance between the wheels, and so on. I'm not going to explain those things, but I just want to show something how those geometry can be incorporated in our forward kinematic design, right? So here, this is the angle of rotation of the wheel, one of the wheel of this two-wheel car-like robot, right? And R is a radius, and L is the distance that what is called wheel center of rotation from the origin of the robot's frame, right? So this is actually the robot's frame, not the what is called global frame, right? Okay. Then angle to that, and this is the velocity, and here we have that angle of rotation. Finally, we will end up with this. Right? Okay. This is actually what we need for this mathematical model, right? So this block, right? Okay. So let's see how we can control that. So R is a constant, 2 is a constant, L is a constant. Theta, oh sorry, psi or psi dot is not a constant. That is the speed of the wheel, right? Then what we can do is, this is actually the speed of the robot and the direction, right? And what we can do is we can change those information, I mean the data, right? Psi 1, 2 dot, right? Okay, so those can be done through that controller. Right? Here, the controller will give the command for this psi dot and psi 1 and 2. Okay, so then this robot, if this is a mobile robot, what will happen is that robot will move at that speed in that direction. We calculate, right? As the theta here. Theta is the direction with respect to the global frame, right? This is a direction. And V, this is in terms of x dot and y dot. Right? X dot and y dot. X dot is Vx and y dot is Vy. XY components of the velocity of the robot. And this theta is the direction with respect to the global frame. And speed can be decided through these psi 1 and psi 2 dots. Okay, that is the mathematical model, and you can find different wheel configurations, right? Two-wheel robots, three-wheel robots, right? And there are some typical applications of that. I have extracted this from textbook, right? Four-wheel robot, and sometimes you can find six-wheel robot, right? Okay, and next we will talk about mobile robot, robot manipulator. Actually, there we have to talk about joint position or joint angle and effector position and orientation. Okay, then we will try to understand those things, position and orientation. And the coordinate system of frame. Right? So here, this is a schematic diagram of a robot manipulator, and this is called base of the robot, and this XYZ coordinate frame is called as base frame. And here, this is called end effector, and these are links, and these are joints where we have actuators. It can be motors or anything, right? These are links and these are joints. Okay, so this is the end effector. end effector, and this is the coordinate frame of the end effector. And these are there are two objects, right? So each object may have or may not have. We can define if we are going to use those frames, right? They are called actually the object frames, right? Okay. So then we can define some sort of problems. If you want to position, if you want to calculate the position and orientation of the robot manipulator geometrical parameter should be given. It means that I, right? They should be given. Then the angle theta, right? So if you know the length and theta, you can use simple geometry and calculate the orientation and the position of this end effector with respect to this vector. Vector means the distance and xy coordinate and the orientation of this end effector, right? Okay, simply the manipulated geometrical parameters should be given. Then you can find the position and orientation of the manipulator. Okay. Then in kinematics, we can see forward kinematic. It means that these joint angles of rotations are given. Theta 1, theta 2, theta 3 are given, and we asked to find the tool frame or the position and orientation of the end effector, right? So it is straightforward. In inverse kinematics, right? In inverse kinematics, what we are given is the requirement. This requirement, the end effector or the tool should be in this position and orientation, and we ask to calculate theta 1, theta 2, and theta 3. We want to calculate those things, right? Okay, so those are the two different kinematics, and I will skip those things. Then when we talk about the dynamics, right? The given is the joint torque and link geometry. So this is the torque at each joint, right? And the mass, inertia, and all those things are given. Then we ask to calculate the acceleration. Means that theta double dot. So in dynamic, we want to calculate the acceleration of the links, right? Okay, so for that we can use this dynamic equation, right? Okay, so then in inverse in inverse dynamic, we have to calculate the joint torques, right? So in the previous case, the forward dynamic torques, torque values are given, and we have to calculate it double dot. And in this case, accelerations, velocities, all those are given, and we have to calculate the amount of torque should be generated by the motor at each joint, right, in order to achieve these accelerations and velocities. Okay, trajectory generation. Trajectory means something like this. The path that end effector is moving from A to B, right? That is a path. That path is actually incorporated with the time. When you're talking about trajectory, this is actually a time series of x, y, theta values, right? We can say x, y, theta. Also, we can put t is the time. This is the trajectory, right? Okay, so then we have to decide what's the smoothness of this trajectory and whether we are going for linear motion or kind of different uh, polynomials, right? There are a lot of mathematics behind that, but I want to give some idea about trajectory generation, dynamics, and kinematics, and those things. If you are interested to apply those things, right, you can study a little bit and uh, try to apply, right? Okay, you don't need to apply all those things, right? If you want to move a robot manipulator, kinematics is enough, right? If you want to move a mobile robot on a surface, that is also enough. But if you are going to develop some sort of advanced mobile robot or robot manipulator, you have to increase its performances. Then you have to incorporate with those dynamics and trajectory planning like advanced techniques. Okay, the position control is how that position is controlled. Always we have to think about how these three variables are controlled, right, with respect to the time. Perception, right? So I try to finish this in 10 minutes time. Right? Is kind of path planning. The basic one is path planning, right? Determine where to go without collision with the obstacle. Right? You have to find a path towards the goal without colliding with the obstacle. Right? The path planning algorithms or the problems can be categorized into two depending upon the environment we use that. We can say the path planning problems in static environment, dynamic environment, they can be again divided into two. That environment can be known or unknown or partially known, right? So likewise, there are so many algorithms have been proposed in order to solve those path planning problems, right? These are the classical methods: road mapping, cell decomposition, artificial potential field. But that's one of the highly employed algorithm, right? Easy to implement, right? But there are some issues. The mathematical programming, but computational cost is a bit higher than the other one, right? The part APF. Then likewise, you can find different classical techniques as well as heuristic-based approaches. Right? We let those algorithms to learn themselves and do the given perform the given task. Right? So we are not defining any parameter for these algorithms, and we let that algorithm to learn and perform. So artificial neural network, genetic algorithm, then swarm optimization and colony optimization. We will talk this one and this one and these few today, right? Just with some graphical representations without any equation. Right? I will use some equations for APF, but this is one of the roadmap visibility graph and our Voronoi diagram. Okay? So here what you can see is all the nodes are connected, and on those lines that algorithm finds the shortest or the most possible, not the shortest, most possible path towards the goal without any collision with the obstacle. But this is a little bit computationally cost algorithm if the environment is a bit complex, right? And we can use this for static environments only. And the next one is here, what we can see is we connect the nearest points and take the middle point, and here also take the middle point and connect all those points. Then we can find the path having the maximum clearance to the obstacles. But here you can see there is a minimum clearance to the obstacle, right? Okay. then we can introduce some sort of safe margin when we are designing this obstacle space, right? This black color areas are called obstacle as well as obstacle space, right? And the white area is free space, obstacle free space. Okay. Then the cell decomposition, another technique that we can use for path planning, right? And there we actually can find three different types of cell decomposition techniques. First one is exact cell decomposition, and there what we do is we draw the lines, right, in let's say y direction from all the points, right? You can see from this point we have drawn line from this point. Then we can find, the points in this cell. This is the middle point, and from here to there, this point is calculated in such a way that the middle point of this line, and likewise we can connect the middle points towards the goal, right? So this another technique we can find in CD, right? The second one is ACD, approximate cell decomposition, and we have to divide and subdivide the cells, right, in such a way that we can find the obstacle free cells, and we can link from here to towards the goal, right? All those algorithms we discussed so far can be applied or easily applicable in static environment where there is no any moving obstacles, right? Okay, so then the next one is artificial potential field. This one can be used in any environment, right? Static or dynamic, known or unknown, right? What it does is it will produce two forces, attractive and repulsive force. Attractive force of this robot towards the goal and repulsive force between the robot and the obstacle, right? Push the robot away from the obstacle and attract the robot towards the goal. So we'll see how we can define those two forces. And this is the obstacle and this is the goal, and there is an attractive force generated in between these two, right, robot and goal. This is the equation, and don't worry about this equation. You can easily calculate this. There are so many articles on the web. And what we have to generate is this force, right? And then in this case, I have selected only one obstacle, and that's why I use this K, right, to indicate that we may have different set of obstacles, right? For this Kth obstacle, what we generate is this repulsive force. We have to push away this robot from the obstacle. Otherwise, this will hit sometimes, right, with the obstacle. Then this is the equation that we can use to generate the repulsive force. And at the end, if we have a number of obstacles, we have to calculate the total repulsive force, and then we can actually represent those things in the field or as a potential field into the environment, right? So what we can see is here, these are the vector fields, right? And you can connect all, these arrows, right? Then if you put this, if you put a robot on this line, this robot will move along this line, right? Okay, so if you put a robot here, right, this will move, or this will follow this line towards the goal. So it's pretty simple to implement in our computers as well as small microprocessors, right? Okay, that's why this algorithm is widely used in mobile planning, and there is one disadvantage of using this because of local minima or deadlock is the key problem associated with this APF. There are ways to overcome such issues, right? Okay, so other algorithms are actually the mathematical programming genetic algorithm, PSO and Conley algorithm, artificial neural network. Those are actually the heuristic algorithm, and they have to learn themselves and apply. This is how the ants are behaving, right? They communicate actually each other with the neighboring ants only, and this a message will pass throughout the colony, right? And this is highly used in traveling salesman problem. This is one of the optimization problem using manufacturing and production engineering, right? Okay, so the natural behavior of the ant is something like that. They move in between nest and the food. If we put an obstacle in between that, what will happen is the path is blocked. Then we have to find a shortest path, because it is an optimization technique. And what they do is, this is one of the ant, and this ant will communicate with the neighboring ants, or they are called, in the algorithm point of view, they are called agents, right? Ants are agents. There is an obstacle here, and they decide they should spread somewhere around here and find the path towards the food, right? Linking nest and the food. Then once they have, or once these ants have find the path, this that message will pass to the other, and then all the other ants, right, moved away before from that path will attracted towards that shortest path, right? Okay, this is a found path found, and they have not found a path yet. Then what they do is, because of this communication protocol, they will turn back to follow the others, right? Okay, so something like this. That is called ant colony optimization technique, right? Okay, so then so likewise here I have summarized some sort of path planning techniques, right? So we discussed, we roughly went through these, yes, these 3-4 classical methods and colony optimization technique, just to look at what's happening inside that, right? And here we can find their advantages and disadvantages. And basically, if we go for the classical methods, right, they are computationally high algorithms, right? If the environment is getting complex, then we have to spend more time to find a path. But some of the algorithms are not suitable for what is called dynamic environments, right? Okay, so then before concluding, I would like to give you some interesting topics in the field of robot modeling, planning, and controlling. These are the topics that we can, that you can search and learn, right? So then yes, mobile robot, underwater robot and space robot controlling, then robot vision is one of the key topic, right, in the field of robotics. Then sensor fusion or data fusion. And these are the journals that you can access, and some of the papers are available free. You can refer what are the research going nowadays in the field of robotics. Then there are some conferences, right? So top ranking conference in the field of robotics is ICRA, right? International Conference on Robotics and Automation. You can find many articles published. Nowadays it's free, most of the articles, right? Then IROS is the second one, and likewise you can find uh, so many resources on the web. That's all about the overview of the robotics and path planning, right? I use actually the less set of equations, but more facts to give some idea about the controlling of the robots and path planning. Okay, thank you very much. Then the next is the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very informative session. I hope all the participants could learn a lot of new things regarding robotic control and path planning. So they have also sent us a few questions through the link which we provided. And if there is anyone who could not send the questions to us, you can send them through the link which is displayed at the chat box. So now I'm going to direct those questions to Dr. Tharindu. May I start, sir?
Yes, okay.
The first question is, what about the situation of robotics and IoT when considering Sri Lanka these days? What about the job opportunities and the scope?
Yes, as I explained before, there is a big trend in the field of robotics in Sri Lanka as well, right? For example, some of the manufacturing industries located around Colombo are nowadays moving for the autonomous platforms, right? And there are so many job opportunities in coming future for robotic engineers, right?
Okay, sir. The second question is, shall I, sir?
Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's enough. What are the sensors that can be used on localization tasks in autonomous underwater vehicles?
Yes. Actually, I wanted to put a few slides, but I purposely remove those things because in the coming sessions about sensor fusion and other SLAM-like sessions, they will be talking about those sensors in detail. And the basic thing is 5 sensors. Right? Sensors mean we have 5 sensors, right? Vision, hearing, and those things. And also we can find those sensors or sensory systems in robotics as well. What basically we use is some sort of high level sensor is distance sensor. And the basic one is that laser range finder. Okay, then can be used to extract the distance information around the robot. And on top of that, we can use cameras like Kinect sensor, right? Kinect sensor or Xbox is one of the camera plus depth sensor, RGBT. That's why we call the 4D sensor, right? We will be able to extract the color as well as color information, image embedded with the distance, right? Kinect sensor is one of the, it is a bit expensive compared to the laser range finder. Laser range finders are also expensive, but we can find some sort of cheap sensors in the local market around from 10, let's say 15,000 rupees. We can find good sensors, right? That will be enough to start your project. Or if you want to model or design some sort of small robot within a limited budget, you can go for sonar like small sensors that can be used to extract the distance information. So they are very cheap sensors, right?
Okay, sir. The third question is, sir, can you explain more on wheeled robot kinematics, or can you provide the names of some sort of follow-up materials regarding that?
Okay, I can share this presentation. Right? Then the organizing committee will upload that to the relevant place, right? In addition to that, I can share the mobile robot and robot manipulator related articles that you can refer for your design.
Okay, sir. Sir, what is the free or paid online course to learn robotics?
Yes, what I can, yes, okay, I will just explain by words only. Then Coursera is one of the famous one, right? MOOC or mass online platform that we can find so many free online courses. Coursera, Udacity. I can recommend those things because I have used those two online platforms for a couple of years.
Okay, the next question is, as a Sri Lankan, what is the path to become a robotic engineer?
Yes, within the Sri Lanka or no, bro.
It's not specified, so I hope it's within Sri Lanka.
Always we should target the globe, right? So how to become a global robotician, right? Then no doubt about you'll be highlighting in Sri Lanka, right? So because one thing is, if we target our existing industry and the technology available in the Sri Lanka only, then we will not be able to move with the world. Always we should target top research work going in the field of robotics and how the trend is moving towards. Then best way is to self-study, right? Then do something on robotics. Especially we have to master some sort of field that I explained at the very beginning of the presentation, relating that to the mechatronics, right? Then you can play a good and main role in the field of robotics internationally, not within the Sri Lanka. Right?
The last question is,
I can give some examples, right?
sure.
Yeah, one of the graduate from our university he's the one launched the first satellite, right? You have heard about the Ravana one, right? Graduated from the Radhen University and earned his master in QTech Japan, same university, and now he's doing the PhD there, right? So he is one of the international robotician, I could say, right? Okay. There are so many examples, and later we can discuss more things, or other resource persons will discuss probably. Right?
The last question is, sir, where can we find the references for these algorithms?
Means path planning
Yes, sir,
algorithms,
yes.
no? Okay. References mean that mathematical modeling, I guess. Right? It's those mathematics are available everywhere, right? Okay, there are so many textbooks, so many articles freely available on the web, but keep in mind that they have used different notations, but the meaning is same. And also you can use, for example, MathWorks. Right? MathWorks is one of the best place you can find algorithms developed in MATLAB. right? Or Simulink. You can directly download, you can freely download them and run it and see how it is, how they are working. Okay.
Okay, sir. Yes. Those are the questions that we have got. So thank you very much, sir. With that question, the Q&A session is concluded. So before going further, I would like to make a request from all the participants. Please fill the feedback form and give us your valuable feedback. You can now access to it through the link which will be displayed on the chat box. With that reminder, I hope we have almost arrived to the end of this session. So on behalf of our society, I would like to thank Dr. Tharindu Veerakorn for joining with us today. Dear sir, please accept the token of appreciation presented to you by the Robotics and Automation Society of University of Peradeniya. Furthermore, I should not forget all the participants who attended to this event. Without you, this webinar would not have been a success. Finally, I would like to thank all the members of the Robotics Society who worked hard towards the success of this event. So stay tuned with us for upcoming webinars as well. And I think you have already downloaded the VBOT simulation software, because the third webinar is going to be a very interesting one along with the practical aspects of robotics. So make sure to download it. And I would like to remember that the third day of the first phase of robotics is scheduled to be held on the 1st of August, 6 p.m. onwards. There, we hope to go a little bit deeper into the VBOT software. So join with these upcoming webinars as well to gain an extensive knowledge on robotic simulation. So now it's the time to conclude this webinar, hoping to meet you all at the third day of robotics. Stay safe everyone and have a good night.